Greatly appreciate that. And without further ado, Brother Uthman Al-Talib.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Habibina wa nabina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man istanna wa da'a ila sunnatihi ila yawmiddin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. How's everybody doing? Alhamdulillah. Good. Long week. Tail end. Tomorrow's Friday. TGIF. Right? Alhamdulillah. So, the culmination of everything we've done is today. But inshallah, that's just the start of your own personal journey to go a bit further, inshallah, if you found it beneficial and you found it as something that could be transformative for you. So, in the handout, just so that you have something that you can take home with you, is a summary of how we got here. So we discussed the beautiful equation, the hero equation, which was hardship plus reaction equals outcome. And in that equation, the main variable that we have somewhat control over is our reaction. Right? The hardships may come whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not. How we react to them is our decision. And the outcome is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What that reaction brings is something that's unknown to us, but it does have a strong correlation between how you react and what will come. And that will always be positive if your perspective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is positive. And we went through different examples and stories of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. I think we did some personal stories, went through Malcolm X, rahimahullah, Muhammad Ali, rahimahullah, and then we went into the doctors that have been going to Gaza as examples of embracing discomfort and what that brings. So last week we went into ihsan in a bit more detail. Right? And we started with ihsan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ihsan with people. What we didn't get to is ihsan with ourselves and our life. And so that's inshallah what today's conversation will be about. It's the activities that we'll have today. And then you have kind of the taqwa, taslim, sabr, rida, all of those attributes that we discussed last week as well. And inshallah we'll jump into today's topic. Before we do so, this is a topic that is very dear to myself because it's the thing that I feel has led to the biggest changes in my life. And it's something that's going to take you to be a little bit present. So I want to take some time for you to just get yourself in a position where you can be present, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, because I'm going to have you close your eyes and we're going to go through something, okay? So whatever you need to do right now to get into the zone, I need you to do it before I tell you to close your eyes. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to prepare yourself for traveling outside of where you're at today, and I'm going to put you somewhere very specific. And it might be very heavy to go there. So prepare your heart for it, prepare your mind for it, because what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. If you blow by it, you won't get any benefit out of it. If you take it seriously and prepare yourself in this 1 minute, it may change your life. All of it is the intention that you put into it and how you deal with it. So 1 minute to get yourself ready. You ready? You guys are freaking out. What is this guy going to do to us right now? Okay, close your eyes. And I just want you to listen to the sound of my voice and follow where my voice is taking you. So there's chaos around you. There are people running and screaming in fear. There's no known destination. It's just a bunch of people you don't know that are running in a place that is unknown to you. It's unrecognizable. There's darkness. There's heat. You can feel the aura of fear. You yourself are afraid. You're shaking. You don't know what's coming next. You don't know what's going to happen. The unknown is causing you to come out of your own skin. And then you start to see books. And they're not just normal books. They're books that are flying in the sky. And you're seeing those books coming into the hands of people from the right and the left. Know that you learned something about this when you were living in the world. You heard that the people that receive their book in their right hands will be the ones who are successful. And you know that if the book comes in your left hand, you've lost. So you start to worry. Your life starts to pass between your eyes. What did I do that was right? What did I do that was wrong? Did I make repentance for those sins? Did I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness? Will it come in my left hand? Should I start to hide my left hand, put it behind my back? So you start to put your hand behind your back, afraid that you weren't ready for this moment. And then you start to see a book flying closer and closer and closer to you, like a precision missile, coming straight for you. And you don't know which hand it's going to come into. And it comes to you. And then you're told that it's your turn to meet the one that you've spent your entire life waiting to meet. And you walk into this place where all you see is light. But you see this large throne, golden and bright. And you fall to your knees in complete submission, in awe of what you're witnessing, in awe of the promise that has been told to you. And then you hear a voice tell you, اقرأ كتابك. اقرأ كتابك. Read your book. And depending in which hand you've caught that book, you will either shudder at the thought of reciting what is within it, or you will happily run around saying, هَاؤُمُ اقْرَءُوا كِتَابِيَهْ إِنِّي ظَنَنْتُ أَنِّي مُلَاقٍ حِسَابِيَهْ. Or you'll be someone that when you catch that book in your right hand, you would have been running around telling everybody to read from your book, because you knew that you were going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this day. And so when He tells you to read, you read with happiness, you read with ease. So I want you to open your eyes now. And a kitab goal is something that you work your entire life for that specific moment. Everything that we've done in our life comes down to one thing. Every single one of us. We will all have a promised meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no way to get around it. And in that meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that question that will be asked is for us to read our book. And the problem that I've noticed in my own life, and I've noticed in many other people's lives, is that we don't even think about that meeting. We don't sit and reflect on the magnitude of standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The magnitude of what we will say in response to that question, read your book. What will be the first words that we utter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He tells us to read our book? And that thought scared the life out of me. What am I going to say? Is it how much money I made? Is it the title that I held? Is it that I was a CEO of this company and I was the governor of this state and congressperson of this thing, or mother of this child, or father, or husband, or wife? What's that first thing that I'm going to say that distinguishes me from all of the billions of people that Allah will ask that same question to throughout the entire history of humanity? And if I know that I haven't been thinking about that moment, I haven't been visualizing that moment, I haven't been trying to write what I want to say at that moment when Allah asks me that question, then we live our life aimless. We live it for something that then in that moment we're not prepared to answer. And that thought just makes it feel like your soul is coming out of you. That's how I felt. And so I took stock of my life. I'm like, what in the world am I doing? So let me ask you a question. What does the conception of success look like in your mind? If I just ask you, what's a description of a successful person? What would you say? Just call it out. Descriptions of a successful person in your mind, and don't try to think about what I want you to say. Say what's in your mind. Quickly.
Rich.
What?
Rich.
Rich.
Loving and generous.
Loving and generous.
Humble.
Humble. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What else? Come on, seriously. Like, don't give me the sugarcoat answers. What when you think about it?
Reaching a goal.
Rich.
Reaching a goal.
Reaching a goal. Someone who's reached a goal. What else? Come on, fame, fortune, the newest Gucci bag. Gets to go sit courtside on any seat, walking down whatever road they want to, and everybody's surrounded us. Come on, be honest with yourself.
Scholarship winner.
A scholarship winner.
Good family, maybe a lot of kids.
Lots of kids. Good family. Living the dream. What? Nice house. Got some land. Not living in a condo or apartment, let's say.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm just saying, let's be honest with what we determine to be the conception of success. Because if we fake it right now, we fake it to ourselves and think that that's not the stuff that we look at. Allah tells us countlessly in the Quran, Al-malu wal-banun zinatul hayatid dunya. That your wealth and your children are the benefits of this world, the beauties of this world, the things that delude us. Allah. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آتي محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. So our conception of what someone who is successful, again, if we've refined our souls, we understand that true success lies in different things that are not these apparent, outwardly attributes of success the world wants us to think about. Right? But that question then begs itself, how will you describe yourself? How will you describe what you did in life? An entire life that Allah gave us. What is that first response that we say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He says, read your book? What's the executive summary that we want to give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because this is the most important meeting that any of us will ever have. Just think about in our normal life, what's the most important meeting you've ever met? Who's the most important person that you've ever met with that you knew that you had a meeting and you're just like, you couldn't sleep, you couldn't prepare enough for that meeting. Every word written down, you're like, I know how to say all of the things that I want to say to not mess it up. You lose sleep over it, you get anxious about it. How anxious have you gotten thinking about that most important meeting that determines your eternity, my eternity? How often do we sit down and close our eyes and think about that? And what it is that we're going to say to convince Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that even what's in our book, overlook it, Ya Allah. Overlook it. Because all I wanted to do was this, and I hope you accept it from me. I hope that is the culmination of my entire life. All of those years, 80, 90, 100 years worth of everything, where the pictures, the small things and the large things. The book doesn't miss anything. But what's the executive summary that we want to give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's what kept coming to my mind when I looked back at my life. I looked back at 15 years of working in corporate America, sitting with billionaires. And I'm like, I thought getting a title was going to serve the ummah. I was like, if I can, I worked at Google in San Francisco, met with hundreds of millionaires, billionaires, and I'm like, well, if I can get to a certain level, I can influence those people. I can bring Islam to that conversation. I could sit at that table and be the voice of reason. And I was like, I'm gonna work my hardest to do that because that's my mission. Allah put me here for a reason. Why is this random kid from Iraq that just coincidentally happened to end up in America during a time of war? Why am I sitting at the heart of Silicon Valley that have more money than actual countries? So I'm like, that's it. That's why Allah put me here. But then you start to get consumed with it. You start to make a lot of money. You start to see people with power. You start to think that you can do more than the system around you. And then you start to question, well, when things don't go the way they wanted them to go. So all of that influence, you worked, you got to the place that you needed to get to. You were sitting in front of the C-suite and you're seeing the atrocities that are happening in places that are dear to your heart, and yet nobody's listening. Nobody's willing to put anything, no matter what your title says. You could be the lead for whatever group you want to be, but it didn't lead to the things that you wanted it to lead to. And so then I had to rethink, hold on, this strategy of what I'm trying to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with, to say, Ya Allah, I was the leader of this thing and that thing changed the world for the better. Is that the right 1 + 1 = 11? And so I really had to think about the meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something had to be more. That 5 whys exercise we went through, why do you think title is going to make a difference? Why do you think you make this much money, it's going to make a difference? Oh, I'm going to donate it. I'm going to help all Islamic relief. I'm going to help all of these causes around the world. I'm going to do all these things. And you spend your entire life consumed, and then when you meet Allah, you realize the more money you got, the longer you stand before Him. So hold on, what is that money supposed to do? What is it supposed to represent? What is it supposed to manifest? So it has to be deeper than money. So I realized your kitab goal can't be money oriented. It can't be, because our rizq is already written. What our sustenance in this life is already written for it. It's going to come to you and slap you in the face whether you like it or not. You're either going to be poor, middle class, rich. It's written, whatever happens. You just got to go and get it. But how much you go and put into trying to get it, if you fight for something that's never written for you, it's going to be hard to get. And now I don't mean hard in the uncomfortable way hard. I'm saying you're going to lose everything that is actually the true blessing that Allah gave us. You're going to lose that trying to find something that was never written for you, was never written for me. Money came easy. Somebody tell me, what's a great salary that you would think somebody living in this area would have? And you'd be like, man, this person made it. Just scream out numbers.
250K.
250, wow, very specific, I like it. I mean, you're thinking about it. What else? 100K. Come on, what else? 1 million. There you go, thinking, shooting for the stars. That money doesn't, when you have it, I was 30 years old. And this is just between us sitting here. Don't repeat it. 30 years old, I was making $500,000. Bought a nice big house, pool in the backyard, kids have whatever they need. Did it get to my kitab goal? Did it get me to something that I would say before Allah, Ya Allah, I made this amount of money and I donated, whatever I donated, right? Donate X%. But what else? What else defines me and what I did? That's the question that we have to then ask ourselves. Is the money worth it? What is it that you're going to do with it? If you really do have money, then have a goal for what you're going to use it for. Because guess what? Five more minutes. Guess what? The percent of us sitting here today in America, living in America, in comparison to the 1.9 billion Muslims around the world is how much you think? Percent. Less than 1%. Actually 0.18%. That's total with children. Adults is 0.15%. Men 0.075%. Women 0.075%. Adult women live in America as a proportion to the ummah. And yet we are very well off, no matter how low we think we are in the totem pole of American socioeconomic status. Compare that to 1.9 billion. We're doing very, very, very well. So then the question becomes, what's that fard kifaya on me living here? Because it's not just about taking that $500,000 and spending it on my own family. What about the 1.9 billion other people that Allah made me in charge of their success and needs, because I have an ummatic vision of the world. I'm a khalifa. And once I meet the necessities of my life, then there's something much greater that we have to start to focus on. So inshallah, when we come back from Isha, we'll go into how do you actually start to identify your kitab goal.